So hello and welcome along to the Champ.ie podcast, previewing the Betfair Handicap Hurdle and in Punchestown, of course, on Sunday. I'm joined by Ronan Groome, as always, from the Irish Field. Good evening, Ronan.
How are you, Barry? Yeah, good to be back.
And Andrew Blair White from the Blair White blog. Andrew, good afternoon. And how's the hangover after, I suppose, a long 2 days at the Dublin Racing Festival?
Yeah, it was a heavy enough weekend now, but now it was class racing, and it was a lot of clues, I suppose, going forward. So it was very good. Probably the best Dublin Racing Festival they've put on so far since 2018.
I don't need to ask you, I suppose, your highlight of the weekend, but I suppose maybe something that's not Faheen related that you took from the weekend.
Probably the performance of Appreciated. He won superbly. It was one of the best bumper performances I've seen in quite a long while at Leopardstown. And considering I'm sitting on him at 16s for the champion bumper, it was quite satisfactory.
Looks an absolute machine. We spoke about Envoy Allen, and you, I suppose, I read one of your tweets today, just that his form keeps getting better. And of course, I keep crabbing Envoy Allen, but has form, of course, tied in with Appreciated?
He does indeed, yeah. He beat Appreciated in his point-to-point by 11.5 lengths, actually. Appreciated went off evens that day. Envoy Allen ended up going off 3-1. I don't think he's touched 3-1 ever since in any of his races. So, look, they're two very good horses. Both will take a lot of beating at Cheltenham, I'd say.
Obviously, he'd be definitely on my banker list for the week. I think Appreciated, Ronan Groome. We'll talk, I suppose, 5 weeks now to the Cheltenham Festival. Less than 5 weeks to the Cheltenham Festival. One ante-post pick each. I suppose, Ronan, we've had Min for the champion chase before the Dublin Racing Festival from yourself. Who are you going to give us today?
Yeah,
that didn't work out so well, didn't it?
No, it didn't go so well. Well, he ran. I think that was a serious race. And to be honest, I wouldn't be flabbergasted if he still ran in the champion chase. But look, yeah, that's a long shot now. I suppose they probably will go for the Ryanair. And yeah, heartbreaks, I suppose, for myself and yourself, Barry, with Honeysuckle, if they do indeed go for the mares now, which it seems like they are. So I am going to have another stab at the Champion Hurdle market and go for a big priced horse, Super Sunday. I thought he ran a lovely race in behind Honeysuckle, just does what he always does. First off the bridle, down the back, stays on, keeps going, really stays the trip well. And on what is his first run, and he's a notorious horse to get fit. Speaking to Jessica Harrington just numerous times about it, and she always says how hard he is to get fit and that he comes on for his first run. So I thought that was, to be only beaten 4 lengths or so on his first run in such, obviously the form isn't 100%, but that's every race now. Every Champion Hurdle trial this year has been you'd grab the form. So I just think he's a triple grade 1 winner. 2 of those grade 1s are over 2 miles. I've been honestly yearning for the horse to go for the Champion Hurdle for a long time. I just think it'll suit him. Maybe it's too late now. He's a 10-year-old. The stats are against him. But in this year of all years, he just seems a big price to me, 25-1. He's a Cheltenham Festival winner. He won the Coral Cup there. And I just think the stamina test over the 2 miles at Cheltenham could be exactly what he needs. If he can stay with them coming down the hill, he wouldn't want to be on anyone else jump at the last. If he's upsides, like he'll stay on as well as anything. So I think at 25s and even 33s, maybe that 33s are gone now. That Honeysuckle is likely to go for the mares. But Super Sunday for me at a big price in the champion.
Andrew Blair White, you gave us a wave of the sea for the Fred Winter. He may have handicapped himself out of it now, it looks like. I suppose in the spring juvenile hurdle. But who are you going to give us this week?
Well, I was looking through based off today's news that Marie's Rock has been declared that she won't be running in the Mares Novices Hurdle for Nicky Henderson, and I've come down on Colreevy for Willie Mullins. Willie Mullins has won every renewal of this race. She's still 12-1. I think bookmakers haven't quite adjusted quite yet to the absence of her. She'll be getting on soon enough. She won a Grade 1 bumper last year at Punchestown, beating Abacadabras It was a good horse, and her form this year over hurdles. She was second to Midnight Run. She won at Limerick when she was 2-5 over Christmas, and then second a week or two ago to Manila Melody. I'd fancy her to certainly give Manila Melody a good crack, and I don't understand why there's such a price discrepancy between the two of them. For 2 lengths, Manila Melody is 3-1 and Colreevy's 12-1. So I think it's the value play in that race, and I certainly wouldn't be opposing Willie Mullins in these mares races. He's got such a terrific record in them.
Well, for anyone who watched the season preview, the Champ.ie season preview, way back, I think it was in October, I did mention a horse called Allaho. And I know he's only won a beginner's chase, and I suppose I know he's only ran 2 times over fences. But the one I'm going to give Champ.ie listeners is, I'm going to go mention this horse again. I'm going to put him up now for the JLT, like I did early in the season at 25-1, but I'm going to put him up again at 8-1. I still think he's value in a division where I suppose Itchy Feet was impressive last time out. But you come down the list, you're looking at Mr. Fisher. Faheen, will he go to Cheltenham? Richie said he did mention the RSA in the aftermath. Be interesting to hear your guys' views on that. But Allaho, I think, I think he could be the subject of a Willie Mullins gamble for the JLT. We've seen him win the race before with Black Hercules, Sir de Champs as well, and I think this is the race he's going to go for. He has been blue barring for this race over the RSA chase, I suppose, in the last week or so as well. And with BetXS, I think 8-1 is still value. I think the horse is going to go off. If he goes for this race, lads, I think you could be looking at a 7-2 shot on the day, and I think this is the horse that could attract, I suppose, a lot of support in the weeks leading up to Cheltenham. But moving on to this week, I suppose let's get to the point, lads. Preview the action. The Betfair Hurdle, of course, on Saturday is the big one. Of course, has thrown up, I suppose, Supreme Novice Hurdle contenders in the past, the likes of Kalashnikov, one of my Tenter, yours, Ballyandy, all went off a sharp price for the Supreme Novices Hurdle. Andrew, Blair, White, let's come to you on this one first. Not So Sleepy. He was a horse, I suppose. Remember the WhatsApp group after his win at Ascot? I think there was a couple of comments, people saying that if he goes up anything less than £20 for his win at Ascot the last time, he has to be a certainty next time. What's your views? He's 9-2 now, favoured in, I suppose, a 23 runner field.
Yeah, look, he has a massive chance. He was very impressive at Ascot. I don't know, though. He was running in a 2-mile handicap hurdle on heavy ground. Right at the end of December, he got a bit of a freebie out in front. It's hard to really correlate the form. He could be a horse that's just massively out of the handicapper. But I saw after that Ascot race, some people talking about the champion hurdle. I think it just seems these days any horse that has 4 legs is being talked up for the champion hurdle. For goodness sake, he won off 120 at Ascot. I think he's got it to prove here. And one I'd actually be taken against him, because it looks like it's going to be slightly better ground than it was at Ascot last time, is Who Shot the Sheriff at 20-1. He's running off 135 here, but it's quite clear from his runs that he needs better ground. Phil Kirby said before Ascot that he wouldn't run him if there was heavy in the description, and then it went off heavy and he still ran him, so I couldn't quite understand. He finished 5th, he ran quite nicely, just got tired in the straight, and he's in here of one of the middleweights, and he does need that better ground. I think yielding is the description at the moment. I think he's got a very good chance, and I think 20-1 is a big price. One I would also mention too, I put him up a few weeks ago for the Supreme Novice Trial at Haydock, is the Banner King Rebel. I think he's around the 8-9-1 mark. And novice hurdlers have, as you were saying there, Barry, a very good record in this race. I think this horse is a champion hurdle entry as well. He was 3rd in that race at Haydock, missed the last. He then got tightened for a bit of room. I think your one Edwardstone's quite a good horse. I would certainly fancy him to reverse form in this race with Stolen Silver.
Yeah, I think so. He's interested in the Banner King Rebel, Ronan. But I suppose the horses in the top, I suppose that are shorter in the betting here. Certainly, when I had a look through the field, Not So Sleepy, Mac the Man, Never Adapt, the Banner King Rebel, Ciel, the Nage. I think those I wouldn't be looking for one at a big price against those five now myself. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you, and I agree with what Andrew said about the Banner King Rebel. And I really like this horse at the price 8-1. I think it's a really big price. It's funny, like the whole last 2 months when you looked at the Betfair Hurdle, you just thought about Not So Sleepy. It's funny because that's since he won at Ascot, it was his obvious next target, and sometimes you can think too much about a horse, and I think the market is reacting to it now, and he's gone out a bit. People thinking he was going to be a real short price and kind of forgetting that there are going to be other, obviously, unexposed, potentially well handicapped horses here. And there's been a number this week. Obviously, Mac the Man has been well backed. You have Never Adapt in there for Nicky Henderson. But this, the Banner King Rebel, I'm not surprised at all if he goes off favourite. I was heartened to see a little message there from Thomas Coyle in the group as well. He likes it as well.
Are you lads? Are you guys taking the soft option out here?
Maybe so, but if you,
I don't
the
think so.
form,
I
the
think
form is there to back it up, Barry. That's the thing. Like the third to Stolen Silver in the Supreme Trial, conceding weight to that horse, and because he finished third, he was better off actually not winning that race with regard to this race because he's £4 well in now, and Stolen Silver gets the penalty. So he's ended up 7, 8. I'll tell you exactly what he's better off with Stolen Silver. He's about £7 better off with him. So you couldn't see Stolen Silver beating him anyway. Now that he has better ground to race on here,
Yeah.
and as you said, like he had fancy entries over in here earlier on in the season in Grade Ones and stuff. I think he was entered in the M by Allen race at Naas, and they've entered him in the Champion Hurdle. They must think he's some machine or something like that to be entering them races like that. Thinking of coming over to Ireland and things like that. And we've seen how the British trainers don't like coming over to Ireland to take on our horses. But Jamie Snowden obviously thinks a lot of this horse, that he entered him up and was obviously thinking about running in Grade Ones in Ireland. I just think off 141 here, when he's actually £4 well in, he's got a star favourite here. I think he's probably, you can make a case for him being the best handicapped horse in the race, probably stronger than any other horse. And I would be not surprised at all if he went off at something like 4-1 or half the price that he is now. I think he can still get 8-1. So the Banner King Rebel will be a strong recommendation for me.
Okay, I think Not So Sleepy. I can't remember a more impressive winner in a 2-mile handicap hurdle. Lads, let's move on. Ronan and Groome will come back to you. I suppose Altior, Native River, they both went up at Newbury on Saturday.
I just think they made a mess of the whole going up and trip. Like if what went on there actually happened and they didn't have him fit, like if you're going to go up and trip, give him a proper crack at it. Give him 2 or 3 runs at least. Let him prove himself. Went up and trip, finished second to probably a very good horse on his ideal track and distance, and just threw it up in the air then and come back to 2 miles. Look, fair enough. It'd be great to see him come back and win over 2 miles. The Champion Chase is shaping up really well. You imagine he's in here and should, start favourite, and he's won around the course and.
But you're Ronan. But we might as well say it, and have Andrew Blair White here to back me up. Sure, Chacun Pour Soi wins with his mouth open in the Champion Chase, doesn't he?
Yeah, perhaps.
What do you think, Andrew?
I think he's got a brilliant chance. Yep.
Yeah.
Peak form Altior. I think you'd be afraid of him now if he is. I think you'd be silly now not to be watching on and a bit cautious and seeing what Altior does this Saturday. If Henderson is to be believed, and I can't remember the exact quote he used, but he said the best horse, he would take any 2-miler in Britain or something along those lines. But yeah, look, I wouldn't. Not a betting race for me. I don't even know how they're pricing this up, but Altior obviously going to be very hard to beat. Kalashnikov, if he's declared, I see he's jocked up there, might be interesting. He's obviously great form around Newbury, previous Betfair Hurdle winner. Coming back to 2 miles could be interesting, but I think it'll be all eyes on Altior and see how he goes back to 2 miles.
Andrew Blair White of, I suppose, the odds on shots, Altior, Native River in the Dead Man Chase. Can you see either of these slipping up this weekend?
No, I can't. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing Altior run on the weekend because I know he's going to win. And I know he's going to be overbacked into favour for the champion chase, which is absolutely ridiculous. I know Ronan's going on about peak form Altior. In my eyes, we haven't seen peak form Altior since March 2018, when he won the champion chase from Min. And I think he had such a hard race that day, which was the day that obviously Duvan was going like an absolute missile out in front. Like he fell in the celebration chase. Last year, he was poor enough. You know, he won a poor champion chase last year. They rode Min wrong. Politolog and So Royale aren't brilliant horses. And then he was very lethargic at Ascot behind Surname. He was beaten very far out that day. Look, he'll win this race because it's not a great race. But I couldn't have him for the champion chase, I must confess. I think he's just showing his old age at this stage. I think he's getting a bit clever with the game. And I think it will put out Chacun Pour Soi in price, and I'll be going in again. In terms of Native River, I think he'll win as well, but I'd be more optimistic with him. I think a lot of people are being very negative about his chances for the Gold Cup. And I see an awful lot of talk about this Santini, Delta work, stuff like that. I tell you what, you really need to be getting past Native River. I watched the Gold Cup from last year back again. And like how that horse hasn't finished out with the washing turning in is beyond me. He fights back to get past Plan des Oboe, and he'll be passing beaten horses no matter what. I think 14-1, considering if he wins by 10 lengths on Saturday, it'll be probably an 8-1 shot again. And I think I've seen worse 14-1 shots in a year where I think a lot of the Gold Cup candidates are quite windy.
Yeah, I think it was a good performance. I think first him up as well at entry, wasn't it? I know he was getting the £6 off Black Carton, but he came home by himself, and he could do nothing else in fairness. And I do agree with you, Andrew. I think of the horses at a double figure prices in the Gold Cup, he'd definitely be the one I'd be interested in. Looking forward to seeing him this weekend. As regards Altior, I did say it after his clash with Surname. I wouldn't be rushing to back him at any stage this year. I'm just not sure if the horse is, as you said it, like we haven't seen the best of him since 2018, and he is back in trip now. And I don't think 2 miles. I'm not sure if 2 miles is his trip anymore. So I think it was probably the right decision to go up in trip. But have we seen the best Altior in quite some time? I don't think we have, and. That's my thoughts on that. And sure, Chacun Pour Soi, as we said, I think he'll improve about at least £10 for his run. It was only a second run of the season, and third run, I suppose, since that beginner's chase win. So he's so lightly raced. I thought he jumped so well at the Dublin Racing Festival, and I thought Min and Chacun Pour Soi, they came so far clear of the rest as well. Thought it was a cracking race. And I just want to get your thoughts.
Hard race from Barry.
No, I don't. I don't think so. Second run of the season. The one thing I would say is, and I'd like to hear guys' thoughts on this. People said, I suppose, he came home at nearly a walk, but do you not think, I suppose, they went so hard? Do you not think he's going to improve again for only his, I suppose, third run of the season at Cheltenham?
I think maybe just that. I was just in the stand, and it did strike me how slow they were finishing for a 2 mile chase. And I just thought a horse of inexperience and a horse of his fragility, because he hasn't been the straightforward in the past with regards to fitness and a few niggles or whatever. Just thought, geez, he really ironed them out. And obviously, if he gets there on the day, then you've nothing to worry about. And then, you would imagine he'd progress again because he's had so little experience so far over fences. But I just thought, geez, like I was watching it going, oh. No, you'd be half worried him, leave his Cheltenham effort behind him or leave it there. But he's obviously in the best hands he can be. So
I just think maybe he finished the way he travelled so well through the race. He jumped them all silly down the back, and the way he just, I suppose, Townend loosening down the goggles coming around the bend, and I sent that video into the WhatsApp group. If he could actually he done everything right to that point. I just think he got tired. I mean, he was clever at the last as well, and I just think he finished like a horse that a typical Willie Mullins horse that I suppose had one day in mind. That was my thoughts on it. Andrew, what was your thoughts on that?
Well, I was actually I was having a look through Twitter there today, and I saw a very interesting piece because I was looking at the Irish Arkle, and to my naked eye in the stands, I thought they went fairly hard in the Irish Arkle as well. Like, I didn't think it was run at a dawdle at all. But when Chacun Pour Soi and Min are jumping 2 out in the Dublin Chase, they're around 20 lengths clear of where Cashback and Notebook are in the Arkle. So they've gone one hell of a gallop.
It was some race.
Like, they did finish tired. I get that, and I think people are trying to read into that in terms of both of them. Maybe have left their race and stuff like that. But I think that was ideal. It showed off that Chacun Pour Soi can go that gallop. He can jump still absolutely superbly at that pace. An awful lot of these horses running over 2 miles, they're allowed jump off. It would be a concern I would have with Defi de Soy is that his jumping at Ascot wasn't put under any proper champion chase gallop pressure. Yeah. He's able to just kind of pop away. And when you're actually going that mad pace, because you'll have some horses in there in the champion chase that will make sure you're going at such a gallop that you want something that can be such a good jumper. And that's where Chacun Pour Soi was in his element.
Sure. Did you see him at the second last? Sure, he absolutely took off. Poor Min just looked like a little midget beside him. Definitely wonder which way he went, lads. From the second last to the last in the Queen Mother Championship. Mark my words, lads. 4:10 at Newbury. It's a 2.5. It's the Backer Lay Betfair Exchange Novices Handicap Chase. Did either of you guys take a look at this?
Yeah, I had a small look at it. I found it quite hard. Obviously, the overall decks aren't out yet. One I'd give a chance to, if he does run, is the Skelton horse, a horse called Redzer. He won on his chase debut at Fontwell by 20 lengths. Now, that wasn't much of a race, but he then went to Cheltenham and finished third behind Holstone. He was pulled up in the Coto Star, or the Feltham as it used to be called, on Stephen's Day behind but he's back down in much calmer territory here off of 135, and I just thought if he runs, he probably has a fair chance.
Warwick at 2:10, lads. The Kingmaker Novices Chase, Grade 2, Nube Negra, 137 rated hurdler for the Skelton team. I think his form now, he's 7-4 favourite for this, guys. Looks a hot enough little race, I suppose, if they all turn up here. But thought the form behind, I think, Esprit de Large of Evan Williams, I thought the two of these pulled well clear the field at Sandown last time, and I thought it looked quite a good race. And definitely the horse who won that day, Esprit de Large, he would, I suppose, come into my consideration for the Arkle. And I suppose based on that, Nube Negra, I think he'd have to have a right chance here, wouldn't he?
A good time that day at Sandown, compared nicely with the Tingle Creek, and pulled right clear. And I agree with you. I actually thought that he's still a bit of a price, that Esprit de Large for the Arkle. He's about 20 to 1.
20 to 1, no, BetXS, yeah.
Yeah, and this Nube Negra, I think, is all right. He obviously went quite close to beating him that day. This race doesn't look as hard. Rouge Vif did it nicely last day when he was second to Global Citizen at Kempton. That was his first start off a wind-up. Ran okay. But you'd imagine on that Henry VIII form, Nube Negra looks fairly solid here. Venetia's horse was a bit disappointing last day. Fagnon Destraval, Torpedo as well. Jingle seems to is just struggling with Irish form coming over here. I see they put him in the race at Newbury as well. The thing but Nube Negra I thought was just fairly solid here at I don't know what sort of price is he, around 2 to 1, 7 to 4.
7 to 4 shot now from 2. So yeah,
I get my tentative vote.
Yeah, you mentioned Rouge Viv there. That sure was only his first run back after a wind up. And I thought, based on his, I suppose, the way he went about his hurdles last year, thought if he was maybe ridden more aggressively, Andrew Blair White, that Ronan may have a point that he could be the one to maybe watch, I suppose, at a bigger price in this.
Yeah, I'd agree. I was quite sweet on Nube Negra when he ran in that race at Sandown, and he ran very well. He's quite a nice jumper, given I think he's got a Spanish flat pedigree. You wouldn't think he's going to be a national hunt 2 mile chaser, but he looks good. Look, that your one Fanny and Destruval. I've discussed that horse, I'd say, around the last 6 weeks on this podcast. He keeps getting entered. He doesn't run anywhere. So I've given up the ghost on him. But Nube Negra, I think, it will take a lot of beating here. I think the fences down the back at Warwick actually will suit this horse. He kind of took to them quite nicely at Sandown, the railways down the back. He seems to love the game. He's 2 from 3 over fences. I think he won previously this year at Warwick. He beat Ballymoy by a couple of lengths. So he's got course and distance form, and I think he'll take a lot of beating.
I'll just about side with Rouge Viv, I think, at the prices. But I do think that Esprit de Large, who has form with Nube Negra, could be exciting and probably will improve again. I was expecting maybe to see him again since that Sandown win as well, but may hold some value in the article. Lads, coming on now to the 315, which is the enemies podcast, lads. From the horse's mouth, 2.5 mile Warwick Castle Handicap Chase. Let's discuss Andrew Blair White. You definitely have something hidden in here.
I do, actually. It'd be one of my bigger plays of the weekend. A horse called Big Martra. I think he's around 12, 14 to 1. Harry Whittington and Paige Fuller's taking the ride, taking 3 off him. The key with Big Martra is he needs good ground. He needs decent ground, and I see at the moment, I think it's good to soft, which is encouraging. He's won off marks of 140 and 149 before. He's now back off 143. You take Paige Fuller's claim off, it's 140. He's been running a couple of races over 3 miles. He's blatantly a 2.5 mile horse, and he always has a big handicap in him each year. It seems quite consistent. It'll be in and out of form, and will win a handicap chase later in the year. He's won the last 2 years, I think, at the Ayr Festival, the Scottish Grand National meeting. But I think he's got a massive chance in this. I saw there was a bits and bobs of money around for him already for this race. He's fully jocked up and everything, so I suspect he'll run, and I think he has a very good chance.
Interesting. Ronan Groome, when are we going to get our own, I suppose, race named after the Champ.ie podcast?
I think Colin Finney's working on it, isn't he? He's doing
his best. He's been up there with Brian Kavanagh having sandwiches in HRI trying to seal the deal. But what have you been?
Sooner rather than later, Barry, I hope. But we're on the way. We're going the right direction. I liked nothing big either. I liked Galaball for Philip Hobbs. I think he could run well. He's only been out. He's a very consistent horse. I think he's been inside the first 2 or 3 for his last 14 runs or something, bar his seasonal debut this year in Newbury, where he kind of bombed a bit. He won last time at Wincanton over the 2.5, and he's only up 2 pounds from that. He's the type of consistent horse that just keeps running well. So I thought in a race where I haven't delved in completely to yet, he'd be an each way kind of solid option if people were looking that way, and he does get declared. So Galaball there for Philip Hobbs.
Yeah, the interesting one, I thought, the horse was off for 735 days, lads. He's short enough in the betting here, but I think it's kind of a dangerous time for handicaps, isn't it, for getting involved 5 weeks out from Cheltenham. But just excuse me here, 2 taffs for the Skelton team. I think he ran an absolute cracking race behind the World's End on his return over hurdles in November, and then I thought he's ran it completely the wrong trip against the Rasher counter. I was surprised to see him run that day actually in the Hennessy, and obviously he was beaten in around 70 lengths by the eventual winner. But I thought back in trip here, over fences, in a race, I suppose, that doesn't look the strongest. I mean, just saw Brellan Dash, so surely he'd have the likes of the Grand Annual in mind. Bellamy, the picked on, I think he's probably an inconsistent type. I thought too, coming down the field, you mentioned Galabah, but Two Taps was the interesting one, I thought, in here. Harry Skelton has already jocked up to ride for Dan. But let's come on, I suppose, lads, to Punchestown. On Sunday, the 2 mile novice hurdle listed race. Cedarwood Road was I suppose that was a valuable tip from Thomas Kyle in around Christmas time on the podcast, on the podcast WhatsApp group. He makes a return here against Front View, who has form tied in, of course, with has very good form. Is it with Envoy Allen, Andrew Blair White?
Yeah, I think he was 6 lengths behind him up in Down Royal at the start of the season in that maiden hurdle, which has worked out pretty well. The fourth horse, Fohernan, for Noel Meade, won over Christmas. A couple of even a horse down in ninth has finished second since. So it looks good form. I think Front View probably takes the beating in this race. I know I was banging on about him earlier in the season. But if it does come up again, another one of these horses that needs better ground is Six Shooter. His jumping has just turned to absolute.
Here, you're talking about Six Shooter. I was just having a little listen back to our season preview. Sometimes I mentioned that quite a lot, actually, but it was about a podcast at the start of the year where we nearly went through every horse in training, and Ronan Groome's novice to follow for the year was Six Shooter. And in the same podcast, of course, I was putting up Siskin at 25-1, of course, for the Supreme Novices Hurdle is now 5-2 running. Where is your Six Shooter gone? Running on Sunday.
It's funny. It's funny how you picked out the bad ones I picked out on the start of the thing. I didn't pick out the decent ones. I did actually mention, if you listen to that first one again, I did actually mention the Rasher counter. So I actually think that initial wisdom for the Rasher counter came from that seasonal podcast. So I'm not saying that now. I just found it coincidental that was the case.
And in fairness to your own and Groome, 50-1 taken about Honeysuckle gave us a great spin, didn't it?
Well, that's about fucking 500-1 now. Excuse my language.
I don't have no. I told Colin Finley last week I've no more. I haven't learned how to press the beep button on the podcast yet. So you want to. But yeah, thoughts on Sunday for Six Shooter.
Sorry, I'm having a mess around. Cedarwood Road, I think, did it really nicely at Christmas. Hard to know exactly how good that maiden hurdle is yet. And Front View, I'd imagine it might start favourite because he's just a bit more solid. I thought it was interesting down the bottom. They're talking about Envoy Allen. He's got his brother down the bottom there, Fighter Allen, who also was in the Chris Jones colours that runs for first time for Gordon Elliott. It'd be very interesting if he got declared. And up the top, remember we talked about Beacon Edge at the start of the season as well. Noel Meade gave this to me in a stable tour preview. I think was it him or Six Shooter? He kind of gave me at the end, just off the cuff. Maybe it was Six Shooter. Maybe this is all right. He did it nicely at Punchestown, won by 10 lengths.
You all right tonight, Ronan?
Huh?
Are you all right tonight?
Long week. I'm going on holidays on Saturday, so I'm kind of counting down to that. But this Beacon Edge, fairly solid bumper form last year. I finished third to Colreevy at Punchestown. Started off the season, won 10 lengths in a maiden hurdle. Obviously, something has gone amiss because he would have ran since. And maybe it's a watch and brief if he does turn up here, because he's quite close to Cheltenham now. But he'd be interesting as well if he did turn up. Interesting
stuff. As always, Ronan Groome. Is it too early, lads, to be thinking about the Grand National? The Grand National trial is on at 4:25 at Punchestown on Sunday. Andrew Blair White, anything hidden away here?
I think this one is usually an absolute minefield of a race. If you look through the past winners, Gordon Elliott seems to be able to revive some of his interesting handicap horses. in this race. Dunakos won it last year with some terrible form figures going into it. So I'm taking the punt that will happen again, and I'm siding with Gun Digger, who, to be honest, his form figures this year I think are PPPP. But he is not a bad horse. He won a beginner's chase at the Leopardstown Christmas Festival in 2018. He was running actually quite a nice race in the National Hunt Chase when falling with, I think, 4 or 5 out. He was upsides at the time. He's dropped down to a mark of 129. Look, he's a mercurial type of horse. So he has his own ideas on the game, but maybe Gordon can get him back to his best, and a step back up to 3.5 might help him here.
There was 2 mares I liked in here. One was My Hannah, who I fancied for the Tayestes, and I don't think I don't think the race was ridden to suit. If she lines up in here again, I think she's a nice mare in those staying type of races this year, and I think off her current mark, she could go well. The other one was Augusta Gold as well, of Mags Mullins. She was beaten by the mare that I like, Salsaretta. She was beaten by her by 3.5 lengths at Punchestown, then went on to be beaten by the mare that Ronan Groome likes, in Ellie May, down in Thurles, and she was beaten by 30 lengths by her. But I just thought she's ridden 125 off hurdles, over hurdles, and I think she's probably going to reach a higher mark over fence, especially up and trip. I think that's the key to this mare. I think she will be better over further. She's now 134 over fences. I think if she lined up in here, she'd be interesting as well. And Danny will probably ride it as well. And of course, it has to be said how well Danny Mullins is going recently, guys. And any horse, I suppose, that he gets up on for Willie Mullins or for anyone, I suppose you're interested at this particular moment in time. Best bets of the weekend. Ronan Groome will come to you first. You'll be off skiing. You won't be too interested, but sure, give us your best bets right now.
My plan is I'll be flying at 1:30, and when I get down, touchdown in Salzburg, I'll be turning on my racing TV app to watch the Betfair Hurdle, and I fully expect to see the Banner King Rebel come clear on the bridle, and that'll be the skiing holiday paid for the week.
That's the plan.
That's the plan, anyway. Whether it works out or comes to fruition is another thing.
Andrew Blair,
yeah, well, my big one, I suppose, I've mentioned already, is Big Martra in the 3:15 at Warwick. And I know Ronan might have a swing at me here, but I'm going to put one up for the listed bumper at Newbury, a horse of Ollie Murphy's called Champagne Super Over. I'm a big cricket fan, as you well know, and this horse has a very appropriate name. He won very well at Ayr on his first time running, and I think will take an awful lot of stopping.
Does that mean anything, Champagne Super Over? Is that in reference to anything?
Yeah, the World Cup final last year went to a Super Over, which England won.
Ah, very good. See, that's great knowledge.
I thought it was called Champagne Supernova, which reminds me of my Leaving Cert holiday. And I panned out on a deck in Ayia Napa, of all places in Cyprus, listening to Champagne Supernova in the sky. Some tune, lads. The Betfair Hurdle, I just think if you took the Banner King Rebel and Not So Sleepy, if you back the two of them, I think you'd be okay. But I have to stick with my instinct and go with Not So Sleepy. I know it's you're probably going to slag me off, lads, for putting up a favourite, a 9-2 favourite in a handicap, a 23 runner handicap. But I do think the horse could be well in still, and I will side with Not So Sleepy in the Betfair Hurdle. Also, I think Rouge Viv might take a bit of beating in the Kingmaker, and also Augusta Gold if it runs on Sunday in the Grand National. That's 3, lads, and the 8 points to play, Ronan Groome. Will we be able to get your 8 points in before you start sloping or falling down mountains on Saturday morning?
Absolutely, yeah. But I'm better off actually not doing the 8 points to play for a while and just taking the 0.
Well, we won't mention the minuses, but Andrew Blair White, you've been you've been entering the green of late.
Yeah, no, actually, I've finally backed a winner or two. I'm going to be on the trail. The last 2 weeks, I've had great success with Gavin Sheehan and Harry Whittington in the Andrew Brooks colours. So I'll be on the lookout for a horse of that connection on Saturday.
Fair enough, lads. Well, listen, that wraps up the Champ.ie preview of the Betfair Hurdle on Newbury on Saturday. And of course, we've looked as well at Punchestown. And so best luck for skiing on this weekend, Ronan Groome and Andrew Blair White. Let's hope you can continue, I suppose, in your good, rich vein of form this weekend. And I have to say to you guys, happy punting. And